Hello, everybody. I know this is coming out a little bit late. I was sick and had a bunch of other stuff going on the last couple weeks, so I kind of ended up slacking off on these. So I'm gonna make that up to you guys and get all these out now. Um, so as you guys remember from last time, they dealt with a bunch of lizard folk and stopped some kind of ritual in this cave. After that, they ended up heading to the city of Ravenfall. Here, they met a couple of interesting characters. There was the blacksmith who was pretty cool. We've got and you can see that all these characters that they've already met, I went ahead and moved into the used characters so I didn't accidentally use them again for anything. Um, so yeah, they met the blacksmith, they met the alchemist, and as you guys can see, all this red lettering, this is all the DM layer. So this is stuff that only I can see. All they see is the city and their tokens. The rest of this is just for me and information that I was just able to keep track of so that I could produce the content more fluidly for my players. They met the general goods store, and then they ended up coming into the Lone Song Inn where they met Cassandra. And Cassandra Cillian, it was an interesting and very charismatic character. She also happened to be a lesbian, which Christopher found out upon trying to flirt with her. And of course, after that, she kind of immediately took an interest in Geltz. So they were in the inn for a little bit. They ended up meeting up with they ended up. So while they were at the inn, they were kind of having some drinks and hanging out, and they saw the marshal come into the tavern and begin talking with Cassandra. Now, Lorne, being the kind of good natured person that he is, our paladin, he decided that he wanted to figure out what was going on. So he approached, asked if there was anything interesting that he could help with, and what they ended up telling them about was that some three children, Miriam, Robert, and Penny Holland, these three children, or young adults, were all kidnapped from a field just outside the city earlier, like super early in the morning. And the only place that the marshal can think of that's even close in that direction is a shrine to Timora, which doesn't really add up because her followers are generally good and not of the kidnapping variety. So, after kind of getting things in order and resting for the night, our party set out. they they came to here. This was kind of a camp to worshippers of Timora who would gather around the statue and kind of pray and keep up the area and help the surrounding villages and towns. Here they discovered a bunch of priestly bodies from the worshippers of Timora, and then a group of slavers had the three young adults and kept talking about some beautiful woman. So the party, Christopher kind of was able to slip through the back of a tent somehow with incredible stealth and was able to slit the throat of one of the attackers. Um, and then from there, they just kind of proceeded to pummel the bandits into the dust. And for this, the bandits were more of a kind of a thing to get their attention so that the real threat could move itself into place. So they killed the bandits. They were getting ready to untie the children, and then a beautiful woman comes walking out of the trees and begins offering to take care of the kids for them and get them back to town and a bunch of other things like that. The party didn't really buy it. They had heard the bandits talking about some beautiful woman, and so they pretty much immediately start accusing her of being responsible for the situation. And seeing as kind of seeing that they're not falling for it anymore, the green hag ends up dropping her disguise and attacks. So there was an interesting fight there. They ended up rescuing the children. Um, Geltz led a ceremony to bury all the worshippers of Timora kind of near the statue so that they would be near their goddess. And in return, Timora spoke to the entire group and gave each of them a coin, which kind of was working as an inspiration die. It's a one-time use. They can use it whenever they want. I think only one person has used it so far. Um, And yeah, it just functions as an inspiration die. They also found a couple of other little interesting things here and there. From there, they headed back to Ravenfall, where they ended up meeting up with a an interesting individual named Devrid. Devrid is a trickster cleric, and he has made it clear to them that his goal is to head to a kind of run-down temple to Dagon that's supposed to be near the city of Gorion, which is on their path. So they all decided that they would travel together, and that was pretty much the end of that one. There was a lot of fun little moments. This really the point of this one for me was to scale things up, make it a little bit more challenging, but at the same time, I wanted to focus more on getting them to think outside the box and to kind of listen for small details. The fact that they noticed, like, they really latched on to the fact that those bandits had mentioned a beautiful woman, and it ended up helping them out a lot. Um, I also wanted something because that's the thing about this. Every single town isn't going to have some crazy world destroying plot. You can't always have it be the hardest thing that they've like. Sometimes it has to be kind of it has to fit. It has to fit. Ravenfall is a small town. There's not really much that was going to be going on here. It was just kind of a stepping stone, leaving the initial start point and kind of getting them used to how I'm going to do things in a way. So it went really well. I had a lot of fun. The hag did a pretty all right job. She was able to land a couple of decent hits. But yeah, this is the point where I realized that my party was really more well equipped than I had originally thought. So you'll end up seeing from the future ones that I kind of scale and change the way that I do things to kind of coincide with that. So after they finished with that, they ended up heading to the city of Gorion. Here they met a guard at the gate who kind of asked them what their business was. Most of the characters said that they were merely passing through to the capital, and then Devrid mentioned that he was heading to a nearby temple of Dagon. Upon hearing this, the guard directed them to the Hall of the Harpers. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar, the Harpers are a faction in the Forgotten Realms universe. They are very, very good people. They head around and they pretty much try to protect people that can't protect themselves. And they do a really good job doing it. They're also a really charismatic and interesting bunch. You get a lot of strange characters that you might not have expected to see, and it's always a lot of fun. And then they also tend to have a bunch of the really interesting kind of old uh what's the word I'm looking for? Experimenting wizards, if you will. They're constantly tinkering and trying out new magical items to funny and hilarious ends. And yeah, so I figured the Harpers would be a good faction to kind of introduce them to, and it would also, if at any point they really need assistance with something major, the Harpers is a perfect group to kind of have come in because it fits most situations. Um, there they met Tarek Lorthan, who is a bard. And guys, this is one of those examples I was talking about in the previous episode. Tarek is a bard character that I designed for myself to play as a player, and as I've decided to DM instead of play, it worked out perfectly that he would be an interesting and fun Harper character, and I didn't have to spend a lot of time on it because I already had spent some time on it, if that makes sense. It was already a resource that I had. I know how the character would act. I know kind of how he functions and what he would think and say. So it really worked out for me. Um, what he informed them of is that there is some kind of lizard folk cult that is working out of the Temple of Dagon, and that he's been spying and kind of keeping track on their movements, but he's waiting on reinforcements before he can actually kind of head in there. Um, and that's when the party says that they're gonna go in and go take a look, and he says that like he kind of supports them, offers them the Hall of Harpers as a place to stay and recuperate, and with that, that's kind of where we ended the session, and with the knowledge that we were gonna start dealing with the Temple of Dagon first thing in the next session. So yeah, we got a lot done. Everybody got to this session. They got to have a lot more fun, kind of role playing with shopkeepers and things like that, which was another thing. And that's another reason I had to kind of keep the encounter on a little bit more on the short side. Is I knew that some of them were really looking forward to role playing, especially at the after the events with the slavers. There ended up being a funny situation that happened in the tavern that night when they were sleeping. Our dwarf trickster cleric put an illusion of our dragonborn paladin naked in the human fighter's room. So he wakes up in the morning, sees his naked party member, and immediately starts trying to explain to Lorne that he's okay with him being gay, but that's not for him, and all this, that, and the other. Well, the initial scream that came out was something that Lorne ended up hearing as he was leaving his room at the end of the hall. So Lorne steps into the doorway. This giant confusing moment happens, and then Geltz and Cassandra try to sneak out of Geltz's room, which, of course, scarred Christopher. He wasn't ready for that. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I really wanted to give them a lot more time to have fun RPing this time, because I knew that was something some of our characters were interested in, and they really seemed to have a lot of fun with it, so it worked out really well. And that's where we're going to go ahead and end this video, guys. And yeah, I will kick up the next one here in a couple of minutes.